Now, Westminster City Council is calling on the government to change the law to gain control of homes which have been empty for more than 6 months. It comes after the council revealed thousands of properties in the centre of the city are unoccupied, and many have been for several years. They want the government to give councils more powers to bring empty private sector property back into use. Our senior reporter Helen Drew has more.
How long has this one been empty for?
We believe it's been empty for over 5 years.
This is Westminster City Council's empty property enforcement officer, and we're joining her as she hunts for homes she suspects have been empty for some time.
So what we want to try to do is engage with the owner, encourage them to bring the property back into use.
And we've got some obvious signs here that no one's living here.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Next up, one we can get inside. Because the council owns the freehold, there were squatters and it wasn't safe, so they secured the building. How many people could you move in here?
Well, we've got 3 double rooms, so we could easily house 6 persons, a family of requiring a 3-bedroom property.
So it would make a massive impact.
Yes, it really would.
And this is what you're talking about, taking things that are not used.
That's right, that's right. Such a wasted resource of having an empty property like this sitting empty for 6+ years when we've got such homelessness, a homelessness situation.
Westminster City Council wants a change in the law to allow local authorities to apply to take control of private sector properties when they've been empty for more than 6 months. They say they're spending £140 million over 2 years on temporary accommodation, while at least 11,000 properties in the borough are empty. There are various ways the council can currently get control of some empty homes, but it's not easy.
So we're looking for the government to help reform the empty dwelling management order system and a number of other changes to help local councils and their empty property officers have those productive conversations with landowners to bring properties into use, either for private rent or for temporary accommodation, where we can help them with investing and improving their properties. So it's a tool in the toolkit that we're looking for, one that we use sparingly and in a targeted manner to help unlock those conversations with landowners.
There are concerns, though, that those owners could be deterred from investing in the capital.
One of the reasons why London has been an attractive place for investment coming in is that Britain has for a long time had a reputation of being a place where the rule of law is generally respected, property rights are respected, freedom of contract is respected. Once you lose that reputation, it's very difficult to rebuild it. The issue is that we haven't been building enough houses for more than 40 years, and that's the issue. And Westminster Council, like many other councils, are just trying to distract from that.
The government told us they will support councils to tackle empty homes by strengthening their powers to take over the management of vacant residential premises. No bins?
No bins, no bins. So if you had a family living here, surely there'd be carry bags or some leftovers in there.
The government says they'll publish more details soon. Meanwhile, Westminster's hunt for empty homes continues.
Well, Clive, what do you make of this idea of seizing properties that have been empty for more than 6 months? Is it a good idea?
I think it's well overdue. I mean, when you look at the housing waiting lists, the number of people in temporary accommodation, it's immoral what's happening in our housing market, and I think it's time we took drastic action. And we can't go on allowing these people to invest in these properties for their own personal gain, but never use them or hardly ever use them. And I think Westminster Council has to be commended for what it's attempting to do in bringing some of those empty properties back into use.
6 months seems a pretty short time frame, though. I mean, people might be away. Perhaps something else like a levy might be more appropriate. I mean, you can imagine the legal issues around that kind of thing would be huge.
Well, the government has allowed local authorities to charge more for empty properties and bring in resources for their local services. But that's not what this is about. What this is about is creating space where families can actually settle and bring up their children. At the moment, we've got so many children in temporary accommodation, hotels and temporary properties that they're far away from the schools that they attend. And we can't go on like that. We can't bring up a generation of children in those circumstances.
OK, Paul, what do you think? Do you agree with this idea? Do desperate times require desperate measures?
There's a crisis in housing in London. We can see that. I see that in my surgeries every week, where we have families in 1- and 2-bedroom, often mouldy flats. That's not good enough. I see it, we're letting down a generation of young people. I see that with my 4 daughters, none of whom could afford to buy a house in Wimbledon or a home in Wimbledon. We need to address this. This might play a role, but if we're going to actually deal with the crisis in housing, we need to build more houses, and that's not happening at the moment. We need to build more housing.
We need to build the right houses, though. We need to build the houses that these people can access. Because in my borough, off the top of my head, I couldn't think of how many thousands of properties we've built over the last 20 years. But all that time, the housing waiting list has gone up, stands at 21,000 at the moment. I mean, that's ridiculous. We're building the wrong properties.
We've got to build more social housing. Kingston Council, which is part of my constituency, they for a number of years now have been investing money in building social housing. That's what we must do.
So we all know that we need more homes. You know, government after government says they're going to address this. We'll see what this government actually manages to achieve and what the mayor manages to achieve over the next few months. But when you talk about seizing people's properties if they're empty for more than 6 months, is there a concern that's going to put off people who invest in London? And we need that investment, don't we?
There's a clear concern about that, which is why I'd like to see the details of this. We should actually charge people for empty properties more. The Lib Dems want to charge 500% more council tax on second homes and empty homes. We need to do things like that. Whether or not we should start seizing property when we're not going to address the real issue, which is we're not building enough houses. That's what we've got to do.
But I would take issue with the idea that these people are contributing to the economy. They are not living in these houses, so I mean they're not contributing anything really. I mean what you want is, you know, vibrant communities. You want properties full of people who are using local shops, local amenities, and spending their money locally. And that's not what these people are doing. They are buying a property from a distance, leaving it there just to you know, accrue value for their own personal benefit. When we have so many families in temporary accommodation and children you know, being brought up as nomads, moving from property to property, far away from the communities where their schools are and everything else, we can't go on like that.
Okay, thank you.